Hey guys, had another awesome cognitive behavior therapy session, and it's getting more and more interesting the longer we go, because I'm learning new concepts, thought processes, coping mechanisms, and one of the big things we talked about this session was stress inoculation. So I want you to think about that. Stress inoculation, which means having coping mechanisms in place that you can mentally practice on situations that bring you the most stress, anxiety, depression, anger. So like you can use these things even though they're technically called stress inoculation techniques. You can Google it if you need it. And it was kind of enlightening, because I realized I just did the video about how I kind of keep myself sane when I know that it's going to be a difficult or stressful time for me. I set myself up for success. And this is one of an additional way, an additional tool that I will be using in order to manage stress and anxiety in different situations that come up, until it becomes an automatic process that just kind of kicks in. So he was describing stress inoculation, which is kind of being in a meditative or relaxed state and then exposing yourself to the scenarios mentally exposing yourself to the scenarios that cause you the stress. And then applying those coping mechanisms in that relaxed state to bring yourself back to a relaxed state after exposing yourself to that stressful or anxiety kind of thing. And I was like, dude, that's parenthood. Like, that is literally my experience with parenthood. Well, and barn work. The more around you are to manure and animal feces and like just general farm dirtiness, the more inoculated you are to other general dirtiness. So, I mean, I've cleaned horse poop, goat poop, chicken poop, dog poop, cat poop. I've done all sorts of poop, okay? And so when my kid's like, hey, mama, come look at my poop, I could be like, yeah, that's beautiful, that's great, without being like, it doesn't bother me. Same deal with stressful situations and dealing with kids. When I'm tired, I know that I get a little bit snippy. So that when I recognize, Dean has these certain sounds that he does, like robot sounds, that aggravate the ever-loving snot out of me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Dean, please be quiet before I snap like a twig. And like, it really only bothers me when I'm exhausted or hungry. So like, I know if that is my reaction, if my reaction is, oh my God, stop it! That I'm tired and I'm hungry and I need to take a step back to myself and be like, Dean, can we please use our inside voice or our whisper voice? Instead of being like, stop! Better parenting through inoculation process. So I'm like, dude, I can use this. I already use this. And I was telling him those experiences, and he was like, okay, so you're already halfway to being a pro. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I got this. So stress inoculation techniques. He was giving the example that he was driving on 95. There was a car next to him kind of pacing him. Not that was bothering him. All of a sudden he hears something and sees a stripe of green go by his driver's side window. He turned to look to see what it was, and then looked forward because he didn't see anything, and it turned out to be a motorcycle that zoomed along the dotted white line and then cut him off to get in front of him. He said the motorcyclist then gave him the magic finger and shook his hand angrily. And I'm like, why would he be angry at you? And he's like, exactly. And here is where the idea of the coping thoughts fall into place. And one of the ones that he was like, this automatically popped into my head was, they're trying to make me mad, I'm going to disappoint them. Because like whenever I see someone like really speeding my first thought naturally is the mom thought, like, I hope that they're safe. I hope that they make it wherever they're going safely, because that's not safe behavior. Like that is my automatic thought, which is an inappropriate automatic thought. Another automatic thought would be, why the F is that dude going so fast? Now I'm aggravated because that dude is going so fast. That's not a healthy thought, because why would the actions of someone else aggravate me when it's not really affecting me? See the difference? So you're probably already using this in some facet of your life and you don't realize it. If you can intentionally use it, you can better your life through that process. So I know that there are certain things that make me anxious or stressed. So I'm going to practice that whole relaxation and then mentally imagining the stressful thing, applying those coping thoughts and seeing if that basically reprograms your brain in a healthy way, so that if that stressful, when that stressful situation occurs next, your thought process is going to be rewired and you're going to fall into that relaxed state and not have that anxious, stress, kind of reaction. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So this is definitely getting really, really cool. I understand that it's a process, and he's like, I hope you're not getting frustrated. And I'm like, no, I want to get to the good stuff. Where's the good stuff? This is the beginning of the good stuff. He's like, you really have to have the conceptual understanding of point A to point B before you can get to the practice. And I'm like, I get that, but because of all the spiritual stuff, like I already get and use a lot of this stuff. So I'm like, gee, I gotta share this with my spiritual people, because if we more intentionally use these things, we could be so much more powerful than we ever thought we were, and hopefully without stress and anxiety, so, or at least without it affecting us as much in a negative way, because I think you're always going to have some form of stress. You're always going to have something that makes you anxious. I mean, I worry about the kids because that's my natural worry, to worry about the kids. So I'm always, I acknowledge I'm gonna have that because I love them and I don't want them to get hurt. So that's the natural stress and anxiety that I'm gonna have as they get older and their situations change. I'm sure that I will have different, maybe not more, maybe not less, but certainly different stresses that kick up relating that. When I start to drive, I'm gonna be really stressed and anxious. I have to work on that. I know I can't teach them to drive. I'm not that good. But, you know, there are a lot of things that come up in life. I'm working on changing jobs. I mean, that's stressful. So I'm working on that not being as stressful. But it is definitely something that I certainly recommend, and I hope that we can find a way to bring this to our spiritual communities, because I think that it would really help people. I really do. And, you know, I had never heard about it before it had been suggested to me. So I'm hoping that by sharing my experiences that someone else might look it up. And, you know, it's not an immediate Band-Aid. It's not. It is a process of being a detective on your own and becoming and growing into being your own counselor. So I really like that. I like that a lot. So I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. You know, practice these skills. The one thing was make a list about what makes you, well, they were talking about anger, but he was like, you could use this with anxiety and stress, because a lot of my anxiety and stress revolves around me not being able to control the kids while they're away, and a lot of the things that play out with that. And basically the unfairness of life. You know, life is going to be unfair. How we deal with that is on us. So it continues to get fascinating and interesting, and I will continue to update you guys as I go to all my appointments. This has been a very rewarding experience, and I certainly I wish I could have had this previous. I wish I could have had this when I wish I had this earlier in life, because I really would like to have had the skills and mechanisms to have used in difficult situations, or I wouldn't have gotten myself into difficult situations in previous times. All right, I hope you guys have a good one. Thanks for listening. Bye.